Happy Tuesday, Tuesday, Tuesday in it. Happy Tuesday. Um, I started pretty late again today, but this is going to be a short live. So, and today it's a quick reminder. Um, it's a reminder that I think that we need to help, right? And this live, I've just titled it "Let That Box." There is literally a way to caption what I'm trying to say. Um, and when I say let that box go, the box here, I'm gonna get into it, right? The box here would be, excuse me, the box here would be expectations. So a lot of us, we've grown, excuse me, a lot of us have grown up in the system. And what that means, the system of the world is what I'm referring to. And what that means is we've been taught, trained, groomed to live a certain way and to expect certain things. And the reason I would always point back to this is it affects a lot. It basically affects how you live your life when you are in that system, when your thinking, your expectation, your goals, just everything about your life is dependent or is hinged on that system, right? And it's something that happens a lot with everybody. There's nobody that is exempt to this. For instance, we all grew up, or most of us, I'm not going to say all because, there's always going to be exceptions, but most of us grew up knowing to go to school every day. And then we knew that at some point when school was done, we would do, this was primary school now. We would do high school or secondary school, and after that's done, we knew that we would proceed to university or college or some sort of trade, And after that's done, we knew we would get a job, and a lot of people have that planned out in their heads. And then there's marriage, and there's kids, and it's also, you know, planned. And a lot of us have what's the word now? Programmed our brains to think like that, work like that, build like that. It affects how we relate with people. You see somebody, you already expect that if they're this age, then they've done certain things because there is a box of expectations. There is a box, a systemic box where stuff like this has to have happened at this time. A person that is at this level ought to have done this. A person that is this age should have achieved this, or should have learned this, or should have figured this out. And while that program thinking feels like there's some sort of organization, while that program thinking feels like, oh, life is planned and everything is working in the right way, what it does actually is it puts you in a box. It puts you in a box of expectations. It puts you in a box of, of singular thinking, of one dimensional thinking and expectation. And that's what happens to a lot of us. So we don't know what to do when you are in your 20s and you haven't gotten a job, or you don't know what to do when you're in your 30s and you're not married yet. Everything, your entire mind, thinking, feeling is just, I should have done this by now. I need to have done this by now. And so that's what I want to talk about today. And, it's crazy. I'm always going to take it to God. So it's crazy because we also think this way in relation to God. It's how that when we pray, we expect that the answers are going to come a certain way at a certain time in this manner through this person. You know, it's part of holding on to a box type of thinking. It's part of holding on to that schedule. But what that does when it comes to prayer and spiritual things is it's you putting God in a box. You're saying, oh, if I say, Lord, do this for me, I know you're going to have to do it this way. And then if it's not happening that way, you're frustrated or within that time frame. So this isn't just something that is happening in general life. It's happening in how we think. It's happening in how we see and judge people. It's happening in how we relate to God. There's always that constant. These are my expectations. If my expectations don't fall within these parameters, then maybe it's not happening, or it's not happening how I want. But who says what you want is the best thing for you? Who says what you've planned is the best thing for you? And this is the joy of surrendering to God, or living under God's will, living under God's will. Is that you might actually just be living your life in a way that you think is great. But if there's surrender to God, God is leading you towards what's actually best for you. Because it can be great, but not be the best thing for you. It can be amazing. It can be, in fact, it might be ideal to the eyes of many people, but it may not be the best thing for you. So, because of that, you cannot engage a boxed way of thinking. You cannot engage a boxed way of approaching your life. You cannot engage that systemic. That is not the intention. That is not the intention. And how I know is that for every story highlighted to us in the Bible, they all had distinct stories, distinct experiences. In fact, the more fascinating aspect of it is for the Gospels, those that did experience Jesus, they all have different accounts. And that's because each person is different, each life is different. So your life cannot necessarily fit into that box of your expectations. It cannot fit into that box of the routine. And this is why you can't even compare yourself to other people, because your life cannot fit into the box of their own story. So they might be living the life that you consider your dream life, but just based on your story and your journey, that is not the dream life for you. That may be the life that you shouldn't live. And so comparison also has to go. Looking at people, comparing yourself to them, thinking I want to be like this person. It's great. It's great to think you want to be like someone. But thinking this is the life I should have. This is how I should be. Why am I not like this person? Is this person better than me? There, it becomes a problem. Because the idea is not to compare. The idea is to learn, grow, and enjoy your own journey. But never to think that whatever you're getting, it should be a certain way. That's a box. You need to be able to break out of the box at any point in time. You cannot afford to engage boxed thinking. And as I always do, take it to scripture a little bit, right? There's someone in scriptures who had boxed thinking. This is Naaman the leper. Naaman's story is so fascinating to me. And I'll tell you why. I know I keep feeling with my hair. It's just a habit. I cut in yesterday. I was saying I would cut in bangs, and then I did, and now I can't stop touching them. You know how when you cut in bangs, it's just not quite right, but you don't know how to go about it. Yeah, that's kind of what makes sense. So I've been adjusting this every second since yesterday because I've not. It's not settled in yet. Anyways, back to the story. Naaman's story fascinates me, and it fascinates me because this guy is a leper, right? He has leprosy. He hears that there's this prophet whom is is known for the power of God at work in him. This prophet is everyone knows if this guy prays for you, you're gonna get healed. You know, and they say because of that, whatever this guy tells you to do, just do it. And everyone goes, and everyone's like, yeah, sure. And this guy says you have to wash in the river. And he's like, nah, what do you mean? I'm expecting like a show, I'm expecting an event. It cannot be this easy. It is too easy to be believable. And so he's upset about that. Why is it this easy? That's what a lot of us do. Because your expectations are boxed. Even when the solution is right in front of you and easy, you are unable to accept it. Naaman was upset. It's like, I expected something else. But thank God for good counsel. Thank God that he had people around him who could say, boss, don't do that. Just do whatever you've been asked to do. Because if there was nobody to tell him that, there's every chance, every chance that he would have missed that miracle. And it would have been nobody's fault but his. Because there's a place where the box was guiding his thinking, right? The Q&A sticker thing is up. I'm gonna try it again. So I tried it yesterday, but I'm not exactly sure how this works. But I'm gonna try it again. Um, I actually would have a question. I said I want to have a question. I have a question actually. Um, um, so it's about beliefs, right? Because I'm talking about box thinking today. I'm just gonna put it there, and anyone who wants to answer that can answer. Yeah. So I've question up there. I don't know if anyone's gonna answer it. I'm still figuring this out. I'm so used to the laptop thing that using my phone is a bit of a learning experience. There's a learning curve here. Anyways, back to what I was saying. Is that some of us we have these expectations and we lock them in and we lock them in so hard that nothing else is believable to us. Nothing else. You just feel like this is how it's supposed to be. And if it's not this way, then whatever way that is not going to work. The reason we do that is because there's some measure of box thinking that we're operating on that. That's why Neiman could not believe that it was that easy. Neiman could not believe it. And if you're somebody who wants to walk with God and know the Lord, a lot of times you will experience things that are very out of the box. The box is the enemy. Yeah. The box is the enemy. You would experience things that would take you out of that fixed mentality. That it has to happen this way. You have to do it this way. This is the only way you will experience it. This is the only source. You have to let go of box thinking. There's never just one way. In all of history and all of life, there's only been one person who has called themselves the way to God. It's Jesus. That's what I was going with that. I lost the joke mid-tail, but that's what I was going with that, right? But for every other thing in life, there's never just one way. And because there's never just one way, you cannot engage a boxed mindset. You cannot expect that it has to happen for me this way. You cannot, when you do that, you miss the other ways, all the other ways that things could happen. You miss the entire adventure of living. You miss it. I have to I have to build business this way. I have to work this way. This is the only way that I can make a living. This is the only way that I can find love. This is the only way that I can get my healing. You miss the adventure of living when you engage box thinking. There is never just one way. It's never ever that locked. And so you have to throw away the box. If there's any area in your life where you fix that belief